In this lesson, we're going to write linear equations in slope-intercept form, where you're having to find the y. All right, so let's go back and let's review those steps in writing an equation. The first step is always to find the slope. The second step is always to find the y-intercept. And then we've added this part where we substitute and solve for b right here. So sometimes that's what you're going to have to do to find that y-intercept. And then number 3, then we're going to write the equation back into this y is equal to mx plus b form. All right, so let's start with step 1, where we're going to calculate the slope. Remember, we're going to take our x of 1, y of 1. I just think it's really helpful to label our points. So we're finding the slope. That's step 1 here. All right, so I'm going to take m is equal to -1 minus, now notice I have a negative here, -5, all over, then I have 2 minus, so I've got another negative here, -2. All right, so that's going to become a plus, this is going to become a plus. So -1 plus 5 is equal to 4, and then 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, so we have a slope of 1. All right, so that's step 1. Step 2 now is that we need to find the y-intercept. And remember, to find the y-intercepts, then if we don't have it here, I don't have a 0 listed in my either one of those points. So now I have to substitute and solve for y. I'm just going to erase this stuff right here so that we can then find a point. All right, so we need to, in order to find the y-intercept, I'm going to just take one of the points, and it does not matter which point you take. I could take the second point, and I like to always start with the y is equal to mx plus b, all right? And so what I have here when I take this point is I have an x and I have a y, and I need to plug them into our equation. Y is equal to mx plus b, and so I'm plugging in what I know, and then I'm solving for what I don't. So what I have here is I've got a point and I've got a slope. I've got my point, which is -5 for my y. My slope, I just found that that's 1. And my x is equal to a -2. And now what I don't have, though, is I don't have my y-intercept, b. So I have -5 is equal to -2 plus b. And now we're just solving this one-step equation. -2 plus, or -5 plus 2 is -3. And so now what I know is that my y-intercept then is -3. All right. So now I've got the slope and I've got the y-intercept. So now let's go ahead and let's write this equation in slope-intercept form. So I've got y is equal to, well, my slope is 1, and I'm just plugging it right back into this equation right here, y is equal to mx plus b. And I know that my y-intercept is -3. And so there's my equation. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the steps again, the calculating the slope. So that's our first step. So I'm going to label my points. And let's find our slope. So remember, the slope formula is the y of 2 minus y of 1 all over x of 2 minus x of 1. All right, so I'm going to take my 8 minus 6, that's my y of 2 minus y of 1, all over 12 minus 8. All right, so now so 8 minus 6 gives me 2, and 12 minus 8 gives me 4, so that's going to simplify down to 1/2. All right, so that's my first step, calculating the slope. Our second step then, remember, is always to find the y-intercept, and in this case, we're going to have to substitute and solve for b. All right, and again, all you need is 1 point. So that I'm going to take this point right here, and this is an x, and this is a y, and I'm plugging it in to that y is equal to mx plus b. So if y is 6, and my slope is 1/2, I do have an x, and that's 8. What I don't have, though, is I don't have that y-intercept. All right, so 6 is equal to 1/2 of 8 is 4 plus b, All right, we have to get the b out by itself, so I'm going to subtract the 4. And b then is equal to 2. All right, so remember, once you have the slope and once you have your y-intercept, now we're just going back and we're just plugging it back into that y is equal to mx plus b. We're just putting it back in. So I'm going to have y is equal to 1/2 x. And then what's my y-intercept? It's 2. And once I have that, I'm all done. And my equation for that line is going to be y is equal to 1/2 x plus 2. All right, so number 3, let's go ahead and we're going to write an equation for this numbers in this table. And so remember what we talked about in the last lesson is that these are xy coordinates. So you could just take any of these. I could take my 1, 1, and let's take the 2, 3. And it really doesn't matter which set. But now I've got something that looks like the first 2 examples here. And again, in each case, we're going to, first of all, we have to find the slope. So let's go ahead and calculate the slope. x1, y1, x2, y2. All right? So let's find the slope. Remember, m is equal to y of 2 minus y1 all over x of 2 minus x of 1. All right. So we're going to take our 3. And I'm going to subtract the 1. And then I'm going to take my 2 minus 1. All right, so 3 minus 1 is 2. 2 minus 1 is 1. So I know we have a slope of 2. All right, so now let's go ahead and we're going to do the next step, which is to find the y-intercept. And we're substituting and solving for b. Again, let's plug in what we know and solve for what we don't. All right, so I'm just going to take this point right here, and that's an x and a y. All right, so y is equal to 1. My slope I know is 2. I have an x also of 1 plus b. All right, 1 is equal to 2 plus b. And again, we're going to get b all by itself. We have -1 is equal to b. All right, so now I have a slope and now I have a y-intercept. We're just going to plug it back in to that y is equal to mx plus b. We're going right back up to here. So I have y is equal to, I have a slope of 2, and I have a y-intercept of -1. All right, so example number 2, solving a multi-step equation or problem. All right, so it says that Hannah and her friend plan to go boating. The Rangers charge $20 plus $5 per hour to rent the canoe. So what is the slope or the rate of the change? Well, remember it's the $5, and again, look for that word per for the slope and rate of change. So it's going to be $5, and what does it represent? The amount per hour. All right, so it's a cost per hour. What does the y-intercept represent? Well, the y-intercept is the 20. That was $5. This was the $20. And it's the charge. It's the first charge, the initial charge, or initial cost. All right, and we can only pay that one time. All right, write an equation to represent this relationship. So I'd have y is equal to, well, I know I'm just going to pay $20 right away, and then from there I'm going to pay $5 for every 1 hour. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to graph this equation. I'm starting at the 20, and we're going up 5 over 1. Now notice how these are going from 20 to 25. So when I go up, those are, and I'm just going to do this because I know that there's a question about the 50, and I want to make sure that I've got a nice straight line. All right, so if Hannah has $50, how many hours can she rent the canoe? So to look for that, let's see, we can find if she has $50. All right, so how much is it then? How many hours would she be able to rent it? It would be, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She could rent the canoe for 6 hours. So in this lesson, we took a look at writing equations given 2 points.